Story 1. My name's Ben. I'm 34, and I work as a patrol officer in southern Illinois, somewhere near the Shawnee National Forest. I've been with the department for about 9 years now. Nothing fancy. Small town. Low crime. Mostly break-ins, drunks, and the occasional domestic. We only had 2 homicides in the last 10 years, until last fall. I wasn't supposed to be working that night. My partner, Dale, called in sick, stomach bug, or at least that's what he said. I picked up the extra shift without thinking. It was just another boring Tuesday, or at least that's how it started. Around 11:40 p.m., dispatch radioed about a 911 call from a payphone on Route 47. Yeah, a payphone. Still surprised those exist. Caller didn't say much. Just some muffled breathing and a weird metallic scraping sound. Then silence. No voice, no words. Just 30 seconds of that eerie static and scraping. I didn't think much of it. Figured it was kids messing around. That road barely gets any traffic at night, and the only thing out there is an old, shut-down grain elevator. You'd miss it if you blinked while driving by. I drove out anyway, more out of habit than concern. When I pulled up, everything looked normal. The elevator's been fenced off for years, condemned, rusting. But as I stepped out of the cruiser, I noticed the payphone's receiver was swinging, not just a little breeze movement. It was swaying hard, like someone had just dropped it. No wind, no cars around. My gut felt weird, like I'd missed something important already. I checked around with my flashlight. There were no footprints. The gravel didn't look disturbed, but when I picked up the receiver, it was warm. Like body heat warm. Not hot, not from the sun. Like someone had been gripping it tightly just moments ago. I should have called it in right then, but I didn't. I told myself it was nothing and started walking toward the fence surrounding the grain elevator. That's when I heard it. Metal scraping metal from inside the building. I froze. No, not froze. I hesitated. You ever hear something and your brain doesn't catch up for a second? It was that kind of hesitation. Like your instinct knows before you do. I scanned the fence. Saw a section near the back where the chain link had been cut clean through. Bolt cutters, maybe. Not rusted, either. Fresh. I radioed it in, said I was checking the site. Dispatch acknowledged, but their voice had that distracted tone, like they were juggling 10 things at once. No backup offered. Not that I asked. I thought it'd be a quick in and out. I thought wrong. Inside, it smelled like mildew, rust, and something off. Like rotting meat, but not quite. The floor was concrete, cracked in places. My boots echoed with each step, loud enough to make me flinch. The scraping came again, this time from the far corner. I raised my flashlight, aimed toward it, and nothing. Just a dark stairwell going down. That didn't make sense. The building wasn't supposed to have a basement. At least, not according to city records. I stood there, debating whether to call it in. Then I heard whispering. No joke. Low, guttural, and layered. like multiple voices overlapping in different tones. Not English, not any language I recognized, like they were inside my head, but outside too. I took a step toward the stairwell, just one. My flashlight flickered. I swear to God, it flickered. That's when I noticed something on the wall beside the stairs. Scratch marks. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Deep gouges. Some looked like they were made by fingernails. Others, I don't know. Claws? I didn't want to go down there, but something kept tugging at me, mentally, like a hook in my brain. I remember saying out loud, "This is stupid," hoping to break the tension. It didn't work. I started down. Each step was colder, not just cooler, cold, like dropping degrees every few feet. My breath fogged. I got halfway when the scraping started again, directly below me. Then the flashlight went out. Total black. I fumbled for my backup, dropped it, cursed. I should have turned around. I know that. But I didn't. I kept going down in the dark, hand on the damp wall. I reached the bottom and I wish I could explain this part better. There was a room, or something like a room. Brick walls, low ceiling, no lights, but it was full of bones. Not human, I think. Animal, mostly. Deer, dogs, maybe? All stripped clean, piled, arranged in spirals, circles, and then something moved. Not fast, just enough to make noise. Wet, dragging noise. I backed up. My radio crackled, but it wasn't dispatch. It was my own voice saying, "Officer down, officer down," over and over again. And it sounded panicked, terrified. Me, but not me. I didn't say that. I hadn't even touched my mic. I bolted. I scrambled up the stairs, nearly slipped. Whatever was in that basement didn't follow, or maybe it didn't need to. When I got outside, the air felt heavier. Wrong. I tried to radio in. Nothing. Static. I drove back to the station without even checking the area again. Didn't even lock the gate behind me. I just wanted out. When I got there, I told the chief what I saw. He looked at me like I was nuts. Sent a couple guys out to verify. They came back and said the place was empty. No bones, no stairwell, just rusted beams and cobwebs. I went back the next night. I had to. I needed proof. There was no payphone. I know this sounds insane. Like, I get it. I wouldn't believe me either. Maybe I imagined it all. Maybe I was exhausted. Or maybe something was there and didn't want to be found again. I filed a report. It never got logged. Dale came back to work 2 days later, like nothing happened. Sometimes, late at night, my radio will buzz for a second. Just a blip of static, and I hear it again. My own voice. Officer down. I don't work nights anymore, and I don't drive past that road. Story 2. My name's Daniel. I'm 28, and I work as a deputy sheriff in a rural part of Montana. I'm not even sure I should be saying that much, but whatever. I don't care anymore. I've tried talking about this once before and got laughed out of the room. Even my girlfriend at the time told me I was being dramatic. That was last year. We're not together anymore. Anyway, this happened during fire season. Late August. It was dry as hell. We had some lightning storms pass through, and the department had us doing joint patrols with forest rangers, just to keep an eye on illegal campfires or hikers who didn't know what the hell they were doing. You'd be surprised how many idiots bring fireworks into national forest land. That night, I was teamed up with Ranger Ellis. Guy was a decade older than me, ex-Marine, quiet as a stone, and barely spoke unless he had to. A route took us up this old fire trail, deep into the Gallatin Forest. GPS doesn't really work out there, and the radios are garbage, so we just check in at intervals and pray nothing goes sideways. It was maybe 11:30 p.m. when we came across the van. It was parked at an awkward angle, half off the trail. Looked like someone had just ditched it. No plates, windows fogged up, and the front door was wide open. I could smell something metallic from 10 feet away. Ellis took the lead, hand on his holster, and I followed behind with a flashlight. My boots were crunching dead pine needles louder than I wanted them to. We didn't announce ourselves immediately, which I know sounds wrong, but something just felt off. I remember whispering, "You getting a weird vibe?" And Ellis didn't even respond. He just moved closer to the van, real slow. The smell got stronger, like blood, but not fresh. That thick, rusty stink of something that's been sitting a while. Inside the van, there were newspapers covering the windows from the inside. Dozens of them. And duct tape everywhere. Taped across the dash, the doors, even the steering wheel. It looked like someone had sealed themselves in. Then I saw the hand. It was small, child-sized, and sticking out from under a gray moving blanket in the back. Pale, stiff, no movement. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. My brain couldn't catch up. Then I just muttered, "Ellis," and pointed. He stepped around to the back, opened the door, and, yeah, there was a body. A little girl, maybe 10 or 11, lying on her side like she was sleeping, but the side of her head was caved in. No blood on the floor, just dried into the blanket. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the wall. The entire interior wall of the van had carvings in it. Scratches, like someone had used their fingernails to write the same word over and over again. Just one word. "Let me out." No spaces, hundreds of times, all lowercase. The metal was torn in some spots from how hard it had been scratched. Ellis took a step back and whispered, "There's another one." I looked under the other blanket. It was a boy this time. Maybe 7. Same thing. Head trauma. Same stiff, twisted position. We radioed for backup, but of course, nothing went through. Ellis decided to hike uphill to get better reception while I waited. Standard protocol. I stayed by the van, just kind of pacing. I didn't want to sit in the cruiser. I didn't want to look at that van. But I also couldn't walk too far without losing sight of it. So I just stood there, flashlight off, chewing on my thoughts. That's when I heard breathing. At first I thought it was mine, echoing weird. But it was too close, right behind me, like someone was standing shoulder to shoulder. I turned around fast, light up, gun unholstered. Nothing. I scanned the trees, heard a crack to the left. Raised the light, just a deer. I could see its eyes reflecting, but then it bolted, and something else moved behind where it had been. Not fast, just lurking. I called out, "Sheriff's deputy, show yourself!" No answer. Then the flashlight flickered. Now, I know what you're thinking. Batteries die. Loose connection. That's what I told myself too, except it didn't just flicker. It pulsed, like it was reacting to something, like it was breathing. And then I heard it again, the word, "Let me out." Not whispered, not screamed, just said, flat, monotone. A girl's voice directly behind me. I spun, empty air, but the sound hadn't come from the van. It was in the trees, deeper in. I wanted to follow it. I swear to God, I almost did. Something about it felt familiar, like I knew the voice, even though I didn't. I took a few steps before catching myself. Something in my head said, "Stop, right now." I turned back to the van and saw something I can't explain. The boy's hand. His fingers were moving, twitching. I rushed over, pulled the blanket off. He was still dead. Cold, gray, eyes half open. But his hand kept curling, slowly, like a muscle spasm. Except it wasn't random. It was forming letters. L, E, T. I jumped back. I yelled for Ellis. No response. I slammed the doors shut and locked them. I know how that sounds. I just panicked. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the keys. Ellis finally came back about 15 minutes later. Looked pale. I told him everything. He just nodded. Then he looked at the van and said something I'll never forget. That van wasn't there before. I said, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" He shook his head. "This trail? I come here every week. That spot's too tight. You'd notice a van like that. It wasn't here yesterday." We waited for backup until sunrise. Nobody came. We hiked out, filed a report. The coroner took the bodies. They never ID'd them. No missing person match, no prints, nothing. The van, impounded. But 3 days later, it disappeared from the lot. Just gone. No security footage. No sign of forced entry. Ellis quit a week later. No explanation. I tried calling him once. His number was disconnected. Sometimes I hear that voice again. When I'm driving at night, on a call, in the shower. Doesn't matter. It just says one thing. Let me out. I don't respond. I don't want to know what happens if I do. Story 3. My name's Andrea. I'm 41. I've been a police dispatcher in Oregon for almost 20 years, mostly in Clatsop County, near the coast. It's not an exciting job. Most nights are just DUI calls or noise complaints, the occasional domestic. I've heard every kind of panic, every kind of silence. But there was one call that changed the way I sit in that chair. I still work there, but now I keep the volume turned a little lower. This happened in 2019, mid-October. I remember because it was the weekend before the clocks changed, and I kept screwing up the time logs. It was a slow night, chilly, damp. One of those nights when everyone stays in and nobody makes trouble. Around 2:13 a.m., the line lit up. I picked up like usual. 911, what's your emergency? But no one answered. I could hear breathing, very faint, like someone hiding under blankets. I did the usual routine, confirm the call location via GPS. It pinged from an area near Gearhart, close to the wetlands off Old Highway 101. Nothing around there but forest, private land, and a few off-grid shacks. The caller didn't speak, just soft breathing, barely audible. I tried again. Hello? Can you speak? Is anyone hurt? Still nothing. Then I heard what sounded like tapping. Not random, deliberate. 3 short taps, then a pause, then 3 more. Morse code? Maybe. I didn't know. I just logged the call and routed a unit. Unit 2B4. Officer Randall was closest. He radioed in, acknowledged, and headed out. About 6 minutes later, Randall checked in. Arrived at location. No visible structure. Dense fog. That was odd. The system said the call came from a fixed address, a landline. Yet he didn't see a house. I asked if he was sure. He replied, negative. Just trees. Some old fencing. I'll go in a few yards. That's when things got strange. The line from the caller, it was still open, suddenly got louder. Like someone moved the phone. I heard footsteps, not heavy boots, barefoot maybe, soft, dragging slightly. Then for the first time, a voice, a woman's voice, very calm. He's here. It was so quiet I almost missed it. I asked, who's there? Are you in danger? Nothing. Then Randall's radio crackled again, but it was full of static. His voice came through broken. Something not right. Think I saw someone in the... Then, silence. I tried calling him back. No response. I called another unit, 3C1, and told them to get there fast. Meanwhile, the original line was still open. The woman hadn't hung up. I listened closely. The background was changing. What I thought was static wasn't. It was whispering. Multiple voices, layered, murmuring at the same time, but out of sync. I couldn't make out any words, just breathy, dry syllables, like someone repeating prayers in reverse. Then came a scream. It didn't come from the caller. It came through Randall's radio. I turned my monitor's volume all the way up. I heard shuffling, something heavy being dragged, and that woman's voice again. He's not yours. It was so matter-of-fact, so emotionless, it made my skin crawl. I froze. I didn't know what to do. This wasn't protocol. I'm supposed to stay calm, report, log, redirect, but my hands were shaking. I felt like I was listening to something I wasn't supposed to hear. Like I'd tapped into a private, cursed frequency. 10 minutes later, Unit 3C1 arrived. Officer Jensen. She radioed in. "Dispatch, I see the cruiser. Driver doors open. Lights still on." I asked if she could see Randall. She didn't respond for several seconds. Then she said, I think he walked into the woods." I said, "Did you see him?" Another long pause. "No, but the trail's fresh. I'm going after him." I told her to wait for backup, but she didn't. I couldn't stop her. A few minutes passed. I could hear her breathing over the radio, growing faster. Then she whispered, "Dispatch, it's not letting me leave." That's when I panicked. "What do you mean?" "There's no trail. The trees, they're different. I came in straight, I swear I did. But now, it's all swamp." I heard something else in the background. Sloshing. Then a low hum, like a generator, or maybe a chant. Then she screamed. It wasn't loud. It was cut off, like something grabbed her mouth mid-sentence. And then, silence. No movement. No breathing. Nothing. Her mic stayed on for another 5 hours. Just silence. Eventually, the signal dropped. We sent search teams at dawn. They found her radio, hanging from a branch. Her cruiser was where she left it. Officer Randall's was still running, but neither of them was ever found. The strange part? The call log, the landline that placed the original 911 call? It was traced to a hunting cabin out there, an address that had burned down in 1992. Total loss, electrical fire, 4 dead, a man, a woman, and their 2 kids. The line shouldn't even have worked. It had been disconnected for decades. But here's the thing that really keeps me up. About 2 months later, I got another call at 2:13 a.m. Same faint breathing, same tapping, and then the same woman's voice. "He's here." This time, I didn't answer. I just let it play, because I know whatever this is, it's listening too, and I don't want it to know I'm still here.